All right, Kevin back with you for another episode of the Million Dollar Relationships Podcast. And today I am here with Quentin Hafner. Quentin, welcome, man. So awesome to have you here.
Well, thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here and yeah, just looking forward to chatting. I love it.
Yeah. And what's so cool about this is, I've been running this podcast for a little bit over a year now. This will be the 107th interview that I've done for this. And running this podcast, hosting this podcast has been hands down one of the most rewarding things I've ever done in my business career. And I have got to connect with so many people and talk about a topic, relationships, that in my opinion, as an entrepreneur, relationships are the most valuable asset that we possess. And so anything we can do to increase the relationship capital that we have with people, that is time well spent right there. And
Yes, I'm with you. I'm definitely tracking with that, and I agree with that. It's all about relationships.
yeah, totally. And I look at how you and I met. This is our very first conversation. And we've been talking for, I don't know, about 20 minutes before we hit the record button here. But because we have our mutual friend Paul who connected us, you and I, Quentin, we just connected just like we've been friends for a long time. I mean, just like
Right.
because we have this mutual friend that we both admire and respect. And
I can think about I mean, it sounds like a bold thing to say, but I think that I can say it confidently. Everything good that has happened in my life has been because of some key relationships.
yeah, yeah. Same is true for me too. Same is true for me as I have had relationships in my life that have spanned years and that so much has flowed out of those relationships. So much opportunity, so much, I mean, just so many amazing things have come from those relationships. And so today I'm really excited to just kind of get to know you a little bit and to dig into this with you. And what I'd like to do is kind of start by turning it over to you and letting you share a little bit about your background, what you do, who you serve, what inspires you to do what you do, and just kind of let us know, like, who is Quentin and what is Quentin all about?
Okay, well, thank you. So, gosh, who am I? Such a great question. So, first and foremost, I am a husband to an amazing wife, and I'm a dad to two young boys. And that's where my heart lies. And for my day job, I have the privilege of working as a coach specifically to high performers. That's kind of what I like to call them, high performers, high achievers, and and I help them with personal and professional stuff. So I have a background as a licensed therapist, although I don't really practice therapy anymore. I work, predominantly as a coach now, and over the years, my practice has evolved. From really helping people kind of on the personal side of their life, more towards the professional side of their life now. What I've kind of realized over the years is that so many of the personal challenges that high performers encounter come from things being really out of balance in their professional life.
Mhm.
So, um, and historically, we've kind of separated those two camps. We've had people that touch the personal and people that touch the professional, but I just felt like you needed to really help somebody. You had to kind of integrate both of those things. And so that's what I like to do. And um, I work with people in one-on-one settings. I work with people in like mastermind group type settings.
Okay.
And Yeah, and I'm excited to kind of share the story about somebody important in my life, and so we can dive into that also.
Absolutely, absolutely. So let me reiterate the question for the benefit of the listeners, and we'll get into that. So have you ever been introduced to a person that completely changed the course of your life or your business, so much so that much of what you have today would not be possible if not for this person? And Quentin, I am really excited to hear your story, your experience around this, and just give you an opportunity to honor somebody who's had such a profound impact on your life and on your business.
Yeah, okay, great. I love that. And this is such a great kind of way to honor this person. Um, so somewhere back in 2007, 2006, 2007, I was working in real estate private equity,
Okay.
and real estate private equity in Orange County. And I had a pretty close relationship with the CEO of the company. And so because I was kind of in close proximity to him, I knew his personal executive coach that this guy worked with. I worked for a pretty big company. And so over the years, I had little touch points with this particular executive coach. He wasn't my executive coach, but I just kind of knew him doing like 360 reviews and things like that. So just fast forward, I decided in 2009 and 2008 that I didn't want to work in real estate anymore, and I wanted to do something that felt more kind of near and dear to my heart. So I quit my job and I went back to graduate school. And I was going to get my master's in psychology, and I really just wanted to coach people and to help people. So did that. Fast forward, graduated. I was out practicing on my own, and one of my best friends, he I was just having a conversation with him one day, and he got promoted to the CEO role at his own company.
Okay.
So he and I were talking one day, and he's like, "Man, I got promoted to this role, and I've been looking forward to it, and it's really exciting. But to be honest, I have no idea what I'm doing, and I'm completely over my skis." And he's telling me about all the dynamics with the owners of the company and all this stuff, all the fires that he's putting out. And I said, "You should hire an executive coach." And he's like, "That's a really good idea." He's like, "I don't even know where to start." I said, "Well, I used to know this guy from the real estate world back in the day, and he was, coaching people at a really high level, Fortune 500 company, kind of executive kind of coach guy." And I said, "I think I still have his contact information. I'll just connect the two of you on an email, and we'll just see what happens." And so I did that. And so the executive coach, his name is Jeff. And so I emailed Jeff out of the blue, and I said, "Hey, Jeff, you probably don't even remember me, but this is me. And I wanted to introduce you to my friend John. He's a newly minted CEO, and he's having some challenges. And I just wondered, maybe somebody that can help him." So I kind of that I that happened, and maybe like a couple months later, I followed up with John. I said, "Hey, whatever happened with the executive coach kind of thing?" And John said, "Well, you're not going to believe this." So Jeff told me that he was retired. He doesn't do coaching anymore, but as a way to kind of give back, he wants to mentor me. He wants to kind of take me under his wing and essentially coach me, but not in a professional relationship. All of it's for free. He's just going to mentor me on how to become a great CEO.
Wow.
And
Wow.
I said to John, I said, "You got to be kidding me. I want that." So, out of this place of selfishness and self ambition, um, just to kind of go backwards in time a little bit. So at this point in time, I was out on my own in private practice as a new coach, and I didn't know what I was doing. I mean, I didn't know how to start a business. I didn't know how to do it. I was all over the map. And my wife and I, we didn't have any children at the time, but we were planning on having kids, and I was wasn't making enough money, and I was just a mess. And so I said, "Oh my gosh." I said, I need to talk to Jeff, because maybe he'd be willing to take me on too." So I circle back to Jeff and I email him. I said, "Hey, I understand that you're going to be working with John." And I said, if you have any more room, or if you feel like we would be a good fit, I would love to get your mentorship too. And so he emails me back. He says, okay, let me think about it. Da, da, da. He emails me back like a week later. He said, "I thought about it." He said, "I really like what you're trying to do. And I looked at your stuff, and you know what? I would like to mentor you also."
Mm.
So I just feel like at this point, I hit the jackpot. Here I was, um, a completely out of sorts, new person trying to run a business. And I got like, the cream of the crop executive coaching, person to really guide me.
Mhm.
So, and not and because at the time I could never afford to pay for him. I wasn't making enough money to barely pay our bills, let alone pay his fees. And so for him to be able to kind of be willing to coach me, just truly out of the kindness of his heart, for him almost looking at us as like as a way to kind of give back to what he had been given, it was just a really cool thing. So so Jeff and I started working together, and um you know, it wasn't long before I really started to see some dramatic changes positively in my business. And um, if there's anything that I really take away from those early years working with him, it was him getting me focused because I was so scattered. I was so all over the place, working with this person and working with this person. And these are, and he really helped me kind of hone in on, really who I wanted to serve, who I was best at serving. And he got me to focus on an ideal client with like laser precision.
Yeah.
And as I did that, my practice started to skyrocket. And I'll just pause there, Kevin, and maybe let you ask questions because I could go on and talk more about like the evolution since that point. But that was kind of the genesis story to me having this person in my life,
Yeah.
and I'm just so thankful for it.
Yeah. So let's look at, so, okay, so you started, having Jeff mentor you and your friend. So it was, what, if, as you look back on that
Hmm.
relationship that you and Jeff have had, so it's been, when did that start? Was that around 2012, 2011 that this mentoring relationship started?
Yeah, it was around 2010, 2011.
Okay,
Hmm.
okay. So when you look back on that relationship, what are like one or two things that really stand out for you that happened as a result of that relationship that would have never happened if not for this relationship that you and Jeff had?
Well, I mean, so much of, so much of just the success that I've been able to have and achieve would not have been possible without this relationship. I mean, I look back on the way I was building a business in those early days, and um, if I didn't have him as a sounding board and for him to be able to challenge my thought process, challenge my tactics, I would have just kind of kept on going and doing, really just all I knew how to do.
Yeah.
Um, but Jeff made me do the hard work, and this is something I appreciate so much about him, and it's something that I've carried forward and I make my clients do. He made me do the hard work, and the hardest work was making me think. It kind of reminds me of that cliche that, busyness is a form of laziness. And I believe that so much. And I was busy and doing so many things in the wrong direction. And he made me stop all of it and really get clear on what do I really want? Why do I really want it? And then what is it going to take to really achieve it? So forcing me to slow down, take stock of what was really going on, of who I was, of the, what made me unique and what I could really offer, my education, my skill set, my experience. And, and sometimes I remember it just felt like we were going backwards, because I wanted to kind of go, go, go and move, at lightning speed. And he forced me to slow down and do the heavy lifting and really kept me accountable to that. I remember times, like I would meet with him and he would say, like like I won't meet with you until you have this done. And I'm like, okay, I got to do the hard work. I got to do the heavy lifting because I wanted to meet with him and talk about things, but he really forced me to do the thinking. And I just think that that's the hardest job for any entrepreneur is to do that upfront thinking about what do we really want? Why do we really want it? Why does it really even matter? And get out of like the busyness thing. Because once I got really clear on that, then the implementation part was actually very easy.
Mm-hmm.
That was the easiest part.
Yeah.
But the hardest part was doing the heavy lifting and really thinking through what was most important in the beginning.
Yeah. Yeah. And something else that just in having this conversation with you, Quentin, looking at, because of who you serve and the role that these people hold in the companies that they work for and the roles that they have, the impact that you're making in this world is really, it's the kind of impact that you can't really measure because, you are impacting not only the direct lives of those you serve, but their spouses, their children, the people in their companies, all those that their companies serve as well. So the impact that you have because of who you work with is massive. And I it's the same way for me, because of who I serve and who they are and the impact they're already having in this world. Well, I get to help them make a bigger impact. And most people out there will never know that people like you and I exist, but yet we know, and it's pretty doggone rewarding. And when you really start to look at this, you really start to understand it and like put in context the scope of the scope of impact that you really get to have in this world. And it's that's pretty awesome, man. That's pretty awesome. So
It is awesome, and it can feel it's actually very profound when you think about the spiderweb effect of who you touch and then how that impacts other people's lives, throughout time. And like you said, we'll never know, we'll never know who it touches, and they're never going to know how it really touched them. But I mean, not always, at some point in my career, I kind of realized that if I wanted to make the greatest impact, I wanted to touch the person at the highest part of the organization because I just knew that it just flows downhill from there.
yeah, yeah,
And not that I'm not that I'm above, working with people in the middle of an organization, but in order to make the greatest impact, if I could touch the person at the top, it's going to change everything. It's going to change the personal and professional lives of somebody at the very bottom, and that is really special.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So Quentin, for anybody listening to this, going, man, Kev, I really like who Quentin is and the way he shows up. Where can they find out more info? I mean, any resources or anything like that? Where can they find more info on what you're doing in this world?
Yeah, the easiest way is just my website. It's just my name, quentinhafner.com. You
Okay.
can find me on there. There's a contact button, and I have a lot of, stuff on there, resources and whatnot. And Kevin, I just did want to share this last thing too. I think if anybody's listening to this and they don't have a mentor in their life, the thing that I like to share about that story is that all I did was just ask,
Yeah.
and I got a yes.
Yeah.
And it's kind of a great question for anybody listening to think about. It's like, well, who in my life could be that person for me? And all it takes is for me just to ask. And the worst thing that can happen is that somebody says no.
Yeah.
But the best thing that can happen is that somebody says yes, and it could be completely transformative in ways that you're not even aware of.
Yeah.
So I just think it's a great reminder. And I'm not, that's no credit to me. I just asked because I was desperate and I was so needing of something. But some people listening to this, they might not feel desperate, but there's still a place to ask because it's like we don't even know what we might even be missing.
That's right. That's right. Yeah. Yeah. And that, that there's a huge lesson in just right there. I know all my life I've been this giving, generous guy who loves helping others, and also for most of my life, I totally sucked when it come to receiving or
Mm,
God forbid, asking somebody for help. I would not do that because I didn't want to bother them. I didn't want to put them out. I didn't want to inconvenience them, whatever. And I will tell you, it took one of my mentors pointing out, and he starts asking me, he's like, when you give to somebody who really appreciates it, how does that make you feel? And I'm like, oh, I was like, man, Jesse, that feels amazing. I was like, I don't know any feeling better than that. And he's like, right? And he's like, Kev, do you realize that by you not being open to receiving yourself and even proactively asking for what you want, you are depriving others from having that feeling that you just
mm,
told me was the most amazing feeling ever. He's like, who are you to deprive them from that? And
mm,
when he explained it to me that way, Quentin, I'm like, wow, I never thought about it that way. And he went on, Kevin, he's like, giving and receiving, they're just different sides of the same coin. And we need to be able to do both and do both effectively. He's like, it's kind of like breathing. If I ask you, what do you prefer better, breathing in or breathing out? And if you actually give me an answer, I'll say, great, try doing only that for a while and see how far I get you.
yeah,
You
yeah.
got to do both.
You gotta do
And
both. That's
and
yeah,
and the thing
right.
is like those of us who are givers, people already know us. They know our heart. They know our intention. They know who we are. And so it's okay to ask too. It's okay to give other people the experience of being able to give to us and to help us. And that conversation that I had with Jesse, that was 10 years ago that I had that
Hmm.
conversation. And I've
Hmm.
been actively focused on continual improvement in that area of my life ever since for that
Nice.
much time. And we've
That's
come a
so
long
great.
ways. We've come a long
Yeah,
way.
yeah, yeah. We got to start somewhere. That's
Yeah,
great.
yeah. So,
Yeah,
well, Quentin,
wonderful.
I really appreciate you taking the time to have this conversation. Any last thing you want to share before we call it a wrap?
No, I think
All
I'm good. Yeah, but I appreciate you too. Thank you, Kevin.
right. Absolutely. My pleasure. And thanks again.